This is NBC Palm Springs.
Good morning, Coachella Valley, and thank you for joining us for NBC Palm Springs Midday. I'm Joe Smith. I'm glad you're here. We're going to turn to the triple-digit genius, Jerry Steffen, for a look at our weather.
As you see in our Agua Caliente casino cam, plenty of sunshine out there right now. We're going to see a stretch of days without clouds. Basically sunny and hot. Temps are going to be close to 10 degrees above average later on today. Expect those dry northeasterly winds to kick into gear a little later on, dropping the dew points and elevated with the winds. That'll get a little gusty. Not so much here in the valley. That'll elevate the fire danger. So we have fire weather watches and red flag warnings in parts of Southern California. More on that coming up. And excessive heat. Yes, we're going to get back up to 110. I know we're moving into a new month, October. The numbers should be going down. Instead, they're going up. Today, 107. So that's kind of close to 10 degrees above average for Palm Springs. What about the rest of the week and the new month? We'll take a peek. Full forecast in just minutes.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Now to our top story. President Donald Trump's taxes once again taking center stage and will likely be a main issue during tomorrow night's debate. On Sunday, the New York Times released a report about Trump and his financial dealings. John Lorink reports.
President Trump's campaign facing a bombshell report.
Here it is, a month before the election, October surprise.
According to the New York Times, Donald J. Trump paid $750 in federal income taxes the year he won the presidency. In his first year in the White House, he paid another $750.
This suggests that Donald Trump needs the presidency right now because of the bills he has coming due.
The Times adds Trump didn't pay federal income taxes 10 out of 15 years starting in 2000 because he reported losing far more money than he made. The president called the Times report fake news.
Actually, I paid tax, and you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi released a statement saying the Times story shows President Trump's disdain for America's working families. Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez said Trump is using the presidency to line his pockets instead of helping the American people.
You have in Donald Trump a president who spends his time thinking about how he can work his way out of paying taxes, of meeting the obligation that every other working person in this country meets every year.
Some political analysts say the Times report is just a storm in a teacup.
It doesn't look like there's anything criminal in here, and he takes legal tax breaks that, as I understand it, are common to real estate investors.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Wildfires break out this morning and over the weekend in Northern California. Firefighters battle a fast-moving blaze known as the Shady Fire near Santa Rosa. It's rippling throughout a neighborhood, engulfing homes and forcing evacuations. It's unknown at this time just how big this fire is. In Napa County, the Glass Fire has rapidly burned 11,000 acres. About 1,500 people are under mandatory evacuation order. St. Helena Hospital was evacuated out of caution. It's the second time the hospital has evacuated this fire season. Officials say people are heeding the evacuation warnings. And the Zog Fire in Shasta County rapidly burns 15,000 acres overnight. The fire has destroyed several structures and vehicles. Evacuation orders are in place throughout the county. Right now, the fire is at 0% containment. There's no word of any injuries from this fire at this point. More than 2,000 structures are threatened by multiple fires in the Bay Area. Now 65,000 homeowners are without power in Northern California because of red flag warnings. PG&E shut off power to protect themselves from another costly lawsuit. The deadliest wildfire in state history, the Camp Fire, killed 85 people 2 years ago. It was started by PG&E power lines.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Back here at home, an eye-opening list is being circulated by the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce. It shows all of the businesses the valley has lost because of the pandemic. Our Olivia Sandusky reports some fear the list will grow much longer.
One by one, restaurants, stores, and other businesses are added to the growing list of permanent closures in the Coachella Valley.
I have never talked to so many business owners and heard such devastation.
Katie Stice is the president of the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce. She says these shutdowns affect more than just the employees of the business.
There are so many other jobs attached to that one business. Vendors, IT, web, window washers. There's a huge ripple effect that's happening.
A recent study by Yelp found that across the country, 61% of restaurants shuttered during the pandemic will not reopen. And locally, restaurants are following a similar pattern.
It's been tough. The little diner that I have, JT's Diner over on Cook, that restaurant is hanging on by a thread.
While Todd is thankful to still be operating in Palm Desert, he says his restaurant is ready to welcome more guests indoors.
When you say 25% of your capacity, it's not enough to keep the doors open. The way we do things now, you're in a very safe environment in the restaurants. We're sanitizing like crazy. You got a server that's wearing a mask, gloves.
To help business owners like Todd, Katie says the county should be following a personalized plan made by local representatives instead of statewide guidelines. And she says she's currently working with legislators to make sure business concerns are heard.
We're meeting with Melissa Melendez tomorrow via Zoom. We've met with Chad Mays. We're really trying to make sure that they're constantly hearing all of the other pieces of loss and struggle that are happening in the community in addition to COVID.
Olivia Sandusky, NBC Palm Springs.
Florida restaurants and bars enjoyed their first day of full operation without COVID-19 restrictions. The state is moving into phase 3 of reopening despite seeing 14,000 COVID-related deaths. Phase 3 prohibits local governments from restricting businesses unless they can justify the actions. Civil violations for violating mandatory mask orders are suspended. Dr. Anthony Fauci says vaccinations could start before the end of the year.
In reality, by the time you get enough people vaccinated so that you can feel you've had an impact enough on the outbreak so that you can start thinking about maybe getting a little bit more towards normality, that very likely, as I and others have said, will be maybe the third quarter or so of 2021, maybe even into the fourth quarter. But the availability and starting vaccination could very likely start in November or December.
Fauci's comments come as the U.S. hits 203,000 deaths related to COVID-19, and California has the most cases with 800,000. Dr. Fauci also raised concern about combating COVID as we head into the fall and winter, saying we're still in the first wave of the virus. New research suggests the United States is still a long way from reaching herd immunity from coronavirus. Scientists looked at blood plasma samples from 28,000 dialysis patients across the country. Fewer than 10% showed signs of a prior coronavirus infection. That means the majority of Americans are still susceptible to the virus. Experts say 60 to 80% of the population needs to develop antibodies to be vaccinated or be vaccinated to achieve herd immunity. Now taking a live look outside from our Agua Caliente casino cam. Time now to check in with Jerry for more triple digits, I would imagine.
Yeah, we're already there in some communities. Matter of fact, 102 at Palm Springs at this hour. And very dry air has dropped to 10% relative humidity right now, all because we have a northeasterly flow moving through the area. Let's do a temp check in and around the valley. 68 degrees at Big Bear, 90 at 29 Palms, triple digits at Desert Hot Springs, Thousand Palms, Palm Desert. Also, Rancho Mirage and Cathedral City just made that century mark too. Satellite quiet, yeah, nothing going on here except sunshine, quite a bit of it over the next couple of afternoons ahead of us. Radar quiet. We're in the middle of a dry period that will extend into the next couple of weeks. No rain for us. 105 to 108, lots of sunshine to go with the numbers. And again, Santa Ana wind flow doesn't affect us all that much with the strong winds, mostly high desert San Gorgonio Pass. Because of the low relative humidity, of course, those gusty winds, the fire danger is elevated. So we have red flag warnings to our west, San Gorgonio Pass, Inland Empire area mountains, and a heat advisory, which goes into effect for the Inland Empire to the coastline beginning tomorrow through Wednesday. We'll get some Temperatures that'll be well above average here. Matter of fact, 110s back in our future. More on that in a bit. Dew points in the mid-30s today and peak temps 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. Here's your Comfort Air 3-day forecast. Like today, tomorrow, back to 107, lots of sunshine. Then the numbers start moving up. We'll see some 110s beginning popping up in the valley beginning Wednesday, last day of the month, into the first couple days, possibly 3 days of October. Full forecast and that 7-day coming up.
Thank you, Jerry. Search and rescue efforts are underway after a small plane crashed off the Santa Barbara coast. Several witnesses reported seeing the plane descend rapidly after taking off. The U.S. Coast Guard was called in to aid in the search. They found debris 2 miles off the coast, but the pilot has not been found. The crash is currently under investigation. A woman is in custody after allegedly trying to kidnap the grandchild of NFL legend Joe Montana. The woman, Sadsi Dazel, entered Montana's Malibu home at about 5 p.m. on Saturday and took the 9-month-old from the living room. She was confronted by Montana and his wife. He was able to take the child back during a tussle. The woman allegedly fled to a neighbor's house where the deputies then arrested her. It seemed like the question of whether or not In-N-Out would come to Rancho Mirage was a done deal, but that's not the case. Nothing is final yet. In fact, the city is looking for public input. Our Nico Payne has an update.
From the beginning, there has been a lot of controversy about bringing an In-N-Out to Rancho Mirage. The city was sued on this issue, and now an environmental impact report has been released online for anyone to review.
The In-N-Out project was approved back in October of 2019, but shortly after, a group of neighbors known as Save Rancho Mirage filed a lawsuit saying the project violated the California Environmental Quality Act. The group worries having a busy fast food restaurant will bring down property value and contribute to heavy congestion and air pollution in their neighborhood, questioning the current data that has been collected.
We thought it was bogus. That it was. I don't even know why they bothered. It was conflicting. It was done on a day in August for the traffic study when there's nobody here.
Elliott says this first draft of this impact report is very detailed in offering possible solutions to issues like traffic flow and hours of operation. But he still questions the timing.
It looks like it was quite comprehensive. It did address all the issues. It looked at alternatives, to that. And to that part, I give them credit. I am still very suspect of the data that was collected.
The city of Rancho Mirage responded, stating in part, the project never went away. The first lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice, which means the city's first CEQA determination remains valid. In the context of litigation, sometimes misinformation may be disseminated in the community as a strategy to confuse the matter. The project is moving forward with a proposed draft environmental impact report. According to the city, In-N-Out voluntarily chose to have the environmental impact report, a decision that kept them from having to battle the issues in court.
Yes, the case was dismissed with prejudice on the CEQA issue, but that doesn't mean we can't challenge the veracity of the data.
I am an In-N-Out lover. I would frequent it a lot more if it was closer than over there off the 10 freeway. You know what I mean? That's always just the wrong way for me.
The past 2 nights we ate right across the street, and I noticed some of the businesses are closing right here in the shopping center, so I think it's a really good idea to bring an In-N-Out burger in this area.
The public has until November 6th to submit written comments. After that, the comments will be reviewed by the city for approval following a public hearing. Reporting in the Satellite Center, I'm Nico Payne.
And up next, tomorrow night's the night for the first presidential debate. How are Joe Biden and Donald Trump preparing for this big event? And as we head to break, let's take a live look from our Walter Clock Highway 111 camera. Bright sunshine out there. Cleveland is preparing for tomorrow night's presidential debate, but there are concerns about possible unrest. Some businesses have already started boarding up. There is concern there could be a repeat of violent protests that took place in Cleveland back in May over the death of George Floyd. The former Louisville police detective involved in the deadly shooting of Breonna Taylor is due in court today. Brett Hankinson was fired in June and charged last week with 3 counts of wanton endangerment for blindly firing into neighboring apartments, but not directly for Taylor's death. The hearing is set for this afternoon. President Trump's former campaign manager remains in the hospital. This after threatening to harm himself at his home in Florida. Police say Brad Parcells barricaded himself inside his home and was armed. Parcells willingly went to the hospital. He was in charge of President Trump's re-election campaign for more than 2 years before he was replaced in July. He remains on the campaign as a senior advisor for digital and data. A 6-year-old boy from Texas is dead. This after coming into contact with a brain-eating amoeba in his city's water supply. Lake Jackson, Texas issued a do not use advisory for its water supply and later downgraded it to a boil water notice. The order is in place until the water system is flushed and disinfected. In China, where the coronavirus outbreak began, 240 million children have now returned to in-person learning. NBC's Janice Mackey-Freyer reports from Beijing.
Across China, every school day starts something like this, with thermal imaging cameras, hand sanitizer, and temperature checks 3 times a day. In classrooms, kids are together but must also stay a safe distance apart. There's no close contact or sharing things like pencils or books.
For students, they all understand that's the practice we use to keep them safe at school, so they would all follow.
Parts of the new routine may seem extreme. Every morning I sign a health declaration for my son. It's the law, and no parents are allowed on school property. That strict oversight is a trade-off that has helped over 240 million kids return to in-class learning here, from kindergarten to university.
Getting back into the classroom and staying safe means accepting a new reality, like doing some classes outside and wearing masks all the time.
At this primary school, doors and windows stay open for ventilation. Some classes are shorter and break times a bit longer, which is just fine with 8-year-old Ma Song-chan after months of online learning on his own. I feared the virus when I was at home, but now I don't, he says. Officials here say it took months to hone the system and to convince parents it could work.
Here in the school's clinic, lots of hand sanitizer, masks, and a quarantine room.
The doctor explains that if someone has a fever, they're brought here to rest until their parents can get them. That 90% of China's students are back is being hailed by the government as a sign of triumph over the pandemic. With flu season ahead, there are worries of another wave of infection, but officials say they're ready to contain it by rolling out restrictions and mass testing. For now, it's a return to school like no other.
Some argue the measures are excessive, like kindergartens equipped with cameras to monitor because kids aren't expected to wear their masks all day. Already, some university students are protesting their campus quarantines and lockdowns. The measures are not unique to China. They're being done elsewhere in the world. But the system here doesn't allow for bending the rules or even disputing them. Officials, frankly, don't seem bothered if people feel inconvenienced by apps, surveillance, or any of the restrictions that could help ensure a normal school year. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
As we head to break, let's take a live look outside from our Agua Caliente Casino cam in downtown Palm Springs. Jerry's got your full AccuWeather forecast. That's after the break.
Yesterday, and we'll be above average again already on our way. Lots of triple digits around the valley. 96 though at Coachella, 90 under sunshine at 29 Palms, low to middle 90s at Banning, Beaumont, and Cabazon at this hour. So radar quiet, nothing happening now or will be happening over the next several days. We're in a dry weather pattern in Southern California, no rain in our future. As far as satellite, nothing there either. We did begin with a little bit of fog along the immediate coastline. There'll be patchy fog there again tomorrow morning, burning off in the 8 o'clock hour. But today, high pressure in the vicinity, boosting those numbers well above average, close to 10 degrees above the mark. 105 to 108 today with lots of sunshine and a northeasterly Santa Ana wind flow into the area. It doesn't really affect us as far as strong winds in the valley, a little gusty at the high desert area, maybe around Desert Hot Springs through early afternoon. It's also drying out the air with that downslope winds into the Coachella Valley, and especially when you get to the Inland Empire, San Gorgonio Pass area mountains. That's where a red flag warning is in effect through tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Very dry air in place in Southern California. Not much is changing there. The winds will back off a little bit, easing that red flag warning, but we'll remain dry for the rest of the week. So 106s, 107s today, and about the same range of temps as you move into Tuesday afternoon, again under lots of sunshine. Then that ridge of high pressure really takes over the West Coast states, not just us in Southern California, boosting those numbers above average. So for us, we move back to 110, at least in that vicinity, with temps on the last day of this month, 108 to 112 on Wednesday, and that'll continue into the first couple days of the month of October. Thursday, the first of the month, 110s, 111s for the Coachella Valley. We're going to be up there, and lots of sunshine to go with those numbers. Tropospheric outlook, clear skies across the board there, and dry at the surface too. 30-degree dew points through Wednesday. We'll even see those numbers slip a little bit more, but in the single digits for some of us for relative humidity in the middle of the afternoon. Very dry weather pattern. Air quality index for us in the valley, it's moderate. You go to the east, it gets better. Go to the west, it gets worse. Unhealthy when you get to parts of the Inland Empire, and especially around Yucaipa and Redlands in the mountains there. Okay, we do have a tropical wave we're eyeing right now. The National Hurricane Center puts it at 90% developing into another named storm. It's moving its way to the west-northwest, could develop by the end of the weekend given the name Marie. We'll keep an eye on that. Alrighty, I moved the number up one notch to 132 because we did move into triple digits last hour, and just 3 away from tying that record of 135 set back in the 50s. This is the number of triple-digit days we had in Palm Springs this year. We're going to easily break that looking at our Comfort Air 7-day forecast. 107 today, tomorrow. Then we'll see some 110s pop up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, possibly even Saturday this weekend.
And welcome back. Over the weekend, a group of Coachella Valley students kayaked across the Salton Sea. This in an attempt to raise awareness for the trouble surrounding the body of water. Their goal is to gain the support of both federal and state leaders on this lingering issue.
We just wanted to raise awareness to help the people who live here, make a statement that this is the biggest lake in California and we really need to help fix it and do a change because it is our generation and the ones below us that are going to get highly affected by it.
The students say their next step is to ask for involvement of local and state leaders. Congressman Dr. Raul Ruiz is also pushing to save the Salton Sea. Last week, a congressional hearing was held on the Salton Sea for the first time in over 2 decades.
23 years ago, Congress saw the need to address the federal role at the sea, and yet today we find ourselves on the verge of a crisis. And I'm committed to making change.
He says his bill will also make the government prioritize the Salton Sea end projects. He says if nothing is done, it will cost the economy $9 billion.
Our Desert Pass is brought to you by Mike Thompson RV. Your adventure starts here.
Now, as many work to save the Salton Sea, we take a look back at its past when it was once a great resort getaway for family and the rich and famous. Here's Gino Lamont with our Desert Past.
This is the picture we have become accustomed to when we think about the Salton Sea. A dying body of water with fish die-offs, algae blooms, and abandoned buildings and homes. But there was a time when the Salton Sea was a much-loved resort getaway. In the not-so-distant past, the Salton Sea was an oasis in the desert, a place where Hollywood celebrities would spend time boating and joining the 2 yacht clubs, as well as golf on the shores of this huge inland body of salt water. Families flocked to the sea for water sports, fishing, picnics, and cooling off in the sea's lazy waves.
It seemed like this fabulous gift, that this would be a boon. I mean, this would be a new resort area. I mean, the climate would be ideal for people who are seeking respite from damp, cold areas to come out to the desert. There'd be sun. It would be a great place for boating and fishing, water skiing.
The sea was born after a series of man-made canals, and Mother Nature conspired to create the Salton Sea, at first in an attempt to irrigate the fertile land of the Imperial Valley. But a few years of heavy rain and snowpack melted off suddenly. The Colorado River overflowed and canals burst, and the inland body of salt water was created by God and by man.
In 1905, the Colorado River flooded, massive flooding, 20, 30-foot high wall of water throughout the area. And so that is known as or referred to as the creation flood.
But as the valley grew and became a more popular place to be in the post-war years, families ventured further out of Palm Springs and discovered this oasis. Developers moved in, restaurants, docks, yacht clubs were created. Roads and parking lots were paved, and the Salton Sea was the place to be. But not for long.
The height of the Salton Sea in terms of serving as a resort destination was really only 1950s or through the early 1960s. It was a relatively short period, this heyday.
But as the sea became more salinated, the seemingly endless series of droughts and then floods, algae blooms, fish die-offs began to shrink the lake. The shoreline became unsteady and the massive number of tourists began to go away, leaving us with what we have today.
Flood happened in the early 70s and it became apparent that that wouldn't be feasible. And so since then, it's really been in decline. Once it became apparent that it could not continue to serve as a recreational area.
The fate of the sea is unknown at this time. But back in the day, for a very short period of time, oh, what a fabulous place it was.
And coming up next in Your Health Today, it's that time of year where people are starting to get flu shots. We'll show parents how to make the experience easier for their children.
your health today, it is that time of year where people are starting to get the flu shot, and the experience can be daunting, especially those with young children or babies. Doctors say babies 6 months and older do need that flu vaccine every year. It protects them from serious health problems. And since it's not the most pleasant experience, new research shows there are ways to make it a little easier on children. The study says a parent's touch can help babies undergoing painful procedures. It measured the brain activity of 27 infants during a needle prick, and it showed babies who had skin-to-skin contact with their mothers had less brain reaction to the pain than those held through clothing or not touched at all. Now, usually the pediatrician will encourage a parent to come forward and touch their child, but the most pain is felt actually by those parents having to watch and endure the experience. It's hard to see your child get pricked. A reminder, parents, though, other family members and caregivers need a flu vaccine every year to help protect the babies who are too young to get the vaccine themselves. And that's what's happening in your health today.
Millions of dollars have been lost because of virtual vehicle vendor scams. Our Jonathan Oaxaca spoke to the Better Business Bureau to find ways to prevent being a victim of this type of scam.
On September 9th, the Better Business Bureau received a report of a virtual vehicle car sale fraud from the Coachella Valley. The victim searched for a vehicle on Craigslist and found a dream deal under an account with the name of Jasmine Miller. The victim paid $1,000 but never drove or saw the car in person. This is one of many fraud reports being presented to authorities across the country.
The projected number of complaints we've had just for this sort of scam since the beginning of 2020, we've had over 450. The projected losses for folks overall is over $1 million.
These scams are growing day by day, and the way these professional scammers work is by creating a false profile online and using pictures of non-existing vehicles with deals that sound too good to be true.
Usually the scammer demands money up front, and they say, you know, if you pay me first, then I'll hire a moving company or some sort of flatbed truck and transport the car to you. And most of the time, people will either pay in full or give some sort of down payment. And after the scammer collects it, they kind of just disappear.
Do be aware that these criminals will use any excuse to not meet in person.
Everybody's social distancing right now, so scammers use that as an advantage to trick you into not wanting to see the actual vehicle for sale, or they'll use that as an excuse.
The BBB recommends consumers to never wire funds, to always contact the seller by phone, see the car first in person, and don't give in to pressure.
So sometimes you might see this car online. You grab the image and you reverse image search it on Google, or you can drop it in and you can see where else that picture is used. And it's from some sort of auto catalog or car dealership website.
If you have been a victim of this type of fraud, you can reach out to your local authorities or file a complaint with your local BBB. Jonathan Oaxaca, NBC Palm Springs.
Some good advice. As we head to break, let's take a live look outside from our Walter Clark Highway 111 camera. Beautiful day out there. Jerry's got your forecast after the break.
Not a cloud in them thar skies. Yeah, bluer than Van Gogh ever dreamed of. It's, sunny skies today, and that'll be the case the next couple of afternoons down the line. A very dry weather pattern with us yesterday. Above average numbers, 104, well above that 96-degree average, and we'll be a little hotter today already. Triple digits around many Coachella Valley communities. 102 at Palm Springs, 95 though at Cabazon. Began in the 40s. Right now 68 degrees at Big Bear City and 91 at 29 Palms. Radar quiet in a dry weather pattern that'll continue into October. We're looking at our satellite imagery. Yeah, you can't find anything there. We did begin with a little bit of fog though. That has dissipated, but we'll return to the immediate coastline early tomorrow morning. And today we have a ridge of high pressure keeping those numbers several degrees above average, about 10 degrees above the mark for many of us. 105 to 108 today with Santa Ana wind flow. Not really strong, but strong enough to bring the fire danger up. Strongest winds high desert, especially around Desert Hot Springs and parts of the San Antonio Pass, maybe very western edge of the Coachella Valley. Not so bad for most of us in the Coachella Valley, but it has elevated the red flag warning over parts of Southern California. That includes the San Antonio Pass into the Inland Empire area mountains as well. That expires tomorrow at 5 o'clock when the winds begin to settle down. But today, 106s and 107s for the valley under lots of sunshine, very dry air mass. 96 degrees at 29 Palms, 99 Cabazon, 97 degrees at Banning, and about the same range of temps as you move into tomorrow. Again, well above average for this time of year, thanks to that ridge of high pressure, which will only strengthen as we move into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, possibly even Saturday, keeping those numbers close to 15 degrees above average. What it means for us in the Coachella Valley, a return to those 110 numbers in the valley. Again, beginning Wednesday, the last day of the month. And then the first day of October, 110s, 111s for the valley, 99, 29 Palms, 101 at Cabazon under lots of sunshine. And speaking of sunshine, yeah, every afternoon through the end of this week, clear skies, totally clear skies, and surface moisture that'll be quite dry as well. 30-degree dew points through Wednesday. Even those numbers slip a little drier Thursday with, again, that Santa Ana wind flow into the area. As far as our air quality index, we're moderate here. Better air to the east, but yeah, it gets worse when you get close to the Inland Empire. Unhealthy to sensitive groups and just unhealthy around Yucaipa and Redlands today. Okay, a tropical wave in the northeast Pacific has a very good chance of becoming our next named storm. In fact, the National Hurricane Center says 90% chance. It's almost certain we'll have Marie on our hands moving its way to the west-northwest. I moved this up to 132 for today because we are in the triple digits. The number of triple-digit days in Palm Springs, yeah, getting close to the 135 number. That's how many triple-digit days we had in 1958. We'll easily surpass that when you look at our 7-day forecast from Comfort Air. Yeah, across the board, triple digits, including getting around that 110 mark Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, possibly even Saturday this coming weekend.
The Jocelyn Center is a treasured oasis for our Valley seniors where they stay healthy and engaged. Join NBC Care's Sandy Newton and Dale Johannes for a unique fundraising experience on Saturday, October 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Help keep Jocelyn in motion.
At a time when hundreds of thousands of people are now unemployed because of the pandemic, some employers are actually upping the ante for new hires next year. Others are willing to negotiate. So why is this the case? Aaron Sullivan with recruiting firm Robert Half is with us this morning to explain. Aaron, it's always good to see you. So tell me, what's the reason for upping the ante now?
You know, with the pandemic, unfortunately, a lot of companies had to go through hiring freezes and layoffs, which means professionals with in-demand skills have a lot of options now.
So what's the reason behind offering more money now because they've gone through all of these layoffs?
Well, even in a market with a higher unemployment rate, if companies don't take retention seriously, they're going to be losing their top talent to other companies and other opportunities.
So what's the big takeaway from this survey that you found?
The big takeaway is really that you do have to be competitive with salaries to attract the top talent. So if you're not able to do an increase in salary, think of other offerings that you can offer employees these days. We now have great options to have remote employees, offer different benefits, flexible schedules for parents. So there are a lot other incentives to help attract top talent.
So what is the current state of salaries? It's always kind of curious as to what a company will pay and how they determine that.
Well, we did just come out with our new 2021 salary guides, which we've been doing and releasing since 1950. And what we found this year through our Robert Half salary guides is that year over year, salaries are probably going to stay fairly the same. Companies are going to maybe pay a little higher to get someone new and attract them to that company. But year over year, salaries for in-demand positions in office and accounting are probably going to stay pretty to par from last year.
Let's talk about negotiating. When you go in, I think the person who is applying for the job is maybe expecting one thing. Of course, the company is going to offer maybe something completely different. At what point do you, as the person who's applying for the job, need to know when not to go any further than you have?
You know, that's a great question. I think it comes down to doing your research ahead of time, especially as we come through this pandemic. Do research on how that company did. What were their earnings? How were they affected? What are the company's capabilities? And that will give you some insight on how you can negotiate where those ranges are, and be able to get a compensation that is good and matches what you're looking for, but also makes sense for the company that's trying to hire you.
I know on some of this survey, you've come up with some numbers of companies that are willing to negotiate, others that are maybe taking a little bit more of a step back. Were you surprised at any of these numbers?
Not really. I think initially, if you hear companies are paying more, willing to negotiate, it does sound surprising. But when you kind of peel back the layers, what we found is companies had to let go of various positions. And now they're really saying, what's a position that I'm hiring for where I'm going to get the most, in a sense, bang for my buck and get. If I invest, I'm going to get the most out of this person and the higher capabilities. And so it absolutely makes sense that those positions are going to offer a higher pay because they're going to maybe, in a sense, take on the responsibilities of what pre-pandemic 2 or 3 employees were doing.
Okay, so bottom line, though, is when you are applying for one of these positions, A, you know you can negotiate. B, you know that the company is willing to negotiate, but you still have to kind of watch where you are in this negotiating process because of the times we're living.
The best offers I can say are research salary trends, research the company's financials, practice asking for what you're looking for and how to overcome those projections, but also keep in mind what's important to you outside of salary as far as benefits, vacation, extra time, and know what you're looking for going into it. And you'll be able to have a fair conversation to negotiate a salary that is competitive and makes sense for you and the company alike.
All right. As always, Aaron, it's good to talk with you, and you're always so optimistic, and that's what we love.
Thank you so much, Joe.
All right, thank you. And keep it right here. We'll be right back.
Well, the popular reality series Dr. 90210 is back, but this time with a little twist. In the new updated revival, viewers are introduced to an all-female group of powerhouse plastic surgeons. Beverly Hills is the mecca of plastic surgery, but only 15% of plastic surgeons are women. And who knows better than a woman what a woman wants to feel like, right? So bringing together some of the most respected and successful females in the field was a natural. And one of the talented surgeons is from our valley, Dr. Suzanne Quart, who joins us now to give us a little preview of the new show. Welcome, Dr. Q.
Good morning, Palm Springs. How are you?
We are doing great, and we're so excited for you. You are now a television star, full-blown television star on E!
That sounds really weird, by the way.
Well, it's a natural because not only are you talented and successful, but you're beautiful. So tell us, how did this come about that you got this great opportunity?
You know, it's an interesting story. We got a call from producers way back about 2015, I believe it was, about this project, about female plastic surgeons. Would I be interested? And I said, of course. And actually, my very first Skype interview, I bombed. And thanks to my husband, I got another chance. So long story short, it sounded like a great project. We were ready to roll. And for whatever reasons, it didn't get picked up at the time. So it was super disappointing because I had this feeling like, oh my gosh, this is such a great show, concept, what have you. And I was like disappointed because my intuition was wrong. And I thought it was going to happen because I really believed it was going to happen. And then sure enough, you know, even if it's 5 years later, it's happening. And so, you know, it's another thing I always believe in, that things will happen when they're supposed to happen, right?
Exactly.
At the right time, even if you don't think it's the right time. So
In their
I'm
own
so
time.
grateful that it's happening now.
Well, it's so exciting because I know it's debuting this week, and what a great opportunity for our valley, because you have a practice here in Rancho Mirage as well as Beverly Hills, for everyone to see the talent that you have. And give us just a quick little preview of what we're going to see this debut week.
Okay, so season premiere, there's actually 4 castmates. It's myself, also a Dr. Michelle Lee, who kind of specializes mostly in facial plastics, but also does some breast surgery. There's Dr. Kelly Colleen, who specializes in all breast surgery, both reconstructive and cosmetic. And then Dr. Kat, who specializes in vaginal rejuvenation, as well as some body contouring. So, and then my specialty, I joke that, you know, I say I do it all from the snooter to the cooter. But really what I mean is that I do things from head to toe. I do facial, I do body contouring, I do men, I do women. So what you're going to see is not only some amazing patient stories and physical transformations, but you're also going to get to see and get to a glimpse into our lives and get to know us a little bit better. And what I love is we're all at different stages in our kind of lives and careers. I'm the OG of the group. That's what my husband calls me because I'm the eldest and I've been in practice the longest. And but so what you get is a glimpse of someone who's a little newer into practice, someone who's kind of established and has their family, and then someone who has a huge Instagram following and is sort of almost like a celebrity already from that. And then a couple like Rick and I who, you know, had a family much, much later in life and building these, you know, this career with the 2 offices. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for fans to get to know us.
Well, we are so excited because we see you around the valley with your wonderful husband and your beautiful daughters. So we know you're a great wife, you're a great mom, you're obviously a great doctor, and we're thrilled that E! Is going to be premiering Dr. 90210, and you're one of the very talented surgeons highlighted. And we'll look forward to it. Will you come back and give us updates every once in a while?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'd love to. Thanks so much for having me this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Q. Can't wait to watch Dr. 90210. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you around town.
Yes, absolutely. 10 o'clock on Monday nights, only on E!